Hello. Can't see if anybody's in the room, but we can start. I'm going to start this session about playful poetry with quite a serious poem from Michael Rosen. So Michael Rosen is a bit of a legend in our household. I'm sure he's probably a legend in some other households too. So the poem that I'm going to read to you is entitled "The Data Have Landed." First, they said they needed data about the children to find out what they're learning. Then they said they needed data about the children to make sure they are learning. Then the children only learned what could be turned into data. And then the children became data. And this brings across this debate of health versus education. Our bodies are designed to move, not to sit, sit, sit. And I think prior to the pandemic, there was a lot of sitting going on in many schools with a narrow curriculum of English and maths and English. And if you didn't get in the morning, chances are you'd have to do an intervention program in the afternoon to maybe do some catch up. And I think the problem now is that many schools are looking towards a catch up or recovery curriculum with a narrow focus on academic subjects, again, such as reading, writing, and mathematics. And this article is time-stamped to today. Call for more playtime amid schoolification of United Kingdom childhood. This is the danger that we're in at the moment. But what I'm going to be talking about is some playfulness through physical activity and linking it to the learning. So here are some stats in terms of the health issues. Globally, at least 50% of children are deemed insufficiently active. And in certain westernized countries, that figure is 80%. 4 out of 5 children are deemed insufficiently active. And now as schools return from lockdowns 1, 2, and 3, many teachers have commented on the fact that there seems to be a widening gap between the children who are fit, who've become fitter, and the children who haven't been able to access gardens or parks. Well, they've come back with a notable added weight to their bodies. So we've got some serious health issues, not just in the United Kingdom, but across the world. And then if you look at the research in terms of the levels of physical activity, we're fine up until the age of 7. So early years, brilliant. Key stage 1, brilliant. But age 7, something happens to the trajectory. One teacher in Bradford suggested it was down to phonic screening and key stage 1 SATs. But I think, well, I don't know what it was like in her school, but I think it's probably then, age 7, that the addiction to digital devices starts kicking in. Which is a shame, because if you think about it, those benefits of physical activity are well known. Yes, it makes you feel good. It maintains a healthy weight. It also helps to develop coordination and builds confidence and social skills. We know it improves the health and fitness and strengthens our muscles and bones. It even gives us a good chance of a better night's sleep. But now the researchers are showing that if you're physically active, you're more able to absorb and retain information. And you might be thinking, what's this got to do with poetry? Wait on and we'll find out. So in the past, most of the money pumped into the United Kingdom schools has been for sport and PE. And that's worked for certain children, but it certainly hasn't worked for all children. So what we're proposing is more in the way of active learning games. So physically active learning games, or as I like to call it, moving and learning. So first and foremost, what is Tagtivate? Well, that depends on what part of the country you're in. Some people call it TIG, some people call it TAG, some people call it IT. So whatever you call it, it's those 3 games, or that game and 3 different names meeting mathematics, English, and other subjects. Or maybe tag rugby meeting Scrabble and Countdown. And the tags, the colourful tags that we have, whether or not they've got numbers or letters on it, colourful, and they're the building blocks that the children work and play. They play with. They get given games to play, and then the better still, they create their own games. And it's all about transforming attitudes and engagement. So here's a child with physically active learning. You don't get a chance to get bored. You don't get a chance to zone out. Or Ethan from Leicester, at the end of a 40-minute session with sweat dripping from his forehead and a big smile on his face, he came out with that statement. How good is that? And it's not just the children, it's the teachers too. When we co-deliver the sessions with the teachers, quite often they'll say, I never knew he could do that. And when we have the conversation, it turns out that the child has never put his hand up in the maths class, or he's never written it in the maths book. But by taking the learning beyond the classroom walls, something magical happens. And school leaders are now beginning to realize that physically active learning engages even the most reluctant of learners. So we've got the smiles and we've got the anecdotes. But really, it's about learning. It's about making the learning memorable. It's about making the learning sticky. It's about moving from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. And yes, there's lots of byproducts in terms of energy and group work, and there's fun and it's cross-curricular and there's more teamwork and there's new skills. But ultimately, it's about learning. So it's all well and good having the smiles and the anecdotes, but we need real research to go with it. So Dr. Andy Daly-Smith from Leeds Becker University did the first round of research, and the impact was noticeable. It decreased sedentary time. It increased activity levels. But then when they drilled down into the research in terms of academic performance, we're talking about gains in accuracy, in speed, in mathematical performance. Not massive gains. That would be wrong. It would be brilliant to make those bold claims. But if those small steps, small improvements are repeated, those small steps, improvements become substantial over time. So Dr. Andy Daly-Smith and myself shared our findings via a TEDx talk. And I'm sure we can share this slide deck with you with the hyperlinks so you can explore the research and the TEDx talk in your own time. So does it work? Of course it works. It works and it plays with children in early years foundation stage. It also works and plays with children a little bit older. So a teacher from a school in Leeds got in touch and said, can we look at the letters? Can we look at the numbers and mash them? Can we blend them? Can we merge them?
So that's
to create algebraic equations. So the children run around, they grab tags, they collect the tags and set algebraic equations for the other children to solve. So I've said it works and plays with mathematics in lots of different ways. And there's a creative way of children sharing their findings of numbers that are multiples of 7 and numbers that are multiples of 5. And here are other examples of children creating their own ways of sharing their findings, whether or not it's using the belts joined up together as Venn diagrams, or maybe used as decimal points for doubles and halves. And again, the creativity kicks in with the belts in terms of fractions, percentages, and decimals. And it works and it plays with English, whether or not it's Elmer the elephant, the Gruffalo, Lion the witch and the wardrobe. Anything that you teach in English, whether or not it's the phonics and the spelling and the grammar, or the pure enjoyment of reading, can be enhanced by looking at the language and the vocabulary through making it a bit more physically active. And here's a little bit of playfulness and creativity using the belts rolled up, not just as full stops, but as commas and apostrophes. And it works and it plays with other languages other than English. And here we've got an example of some students in Finland. And these children are demonstrating that the letter tags can be used for Finnish as well as Swedish. And with this big push of schools to look at knowledge organizers, well, let's link those letters to words, whether or not it's related to World War II or Egyptians or scientific experiments. So our mission is about increasing physical activity in school, but it's not just a health issue. Physical activity brings people together to enjoy shared activities, and it contributes to building strong communities. And how do we do that? We look in terms of making minor adjustments to the culture and the ethos of schools, using different resources and different approaches. So yes, we are running around sometimes, but sometimes it's more like walking with purpose or moving with purpose, collecting information from the environment. And when we talk about the environment, we're talking about the classroom, the corridors, and outside, into the playground, onto the field, as well as in the school hall. Which brings us on to visits. Now, I'm very fortunate in that on my doorstep, well, when I say on my doorstep, it's a 12-minute car ride or a 25-minute bike ride, I can get to this Yorkshire Sculpture Park. And if you've never been, please do go. It's a great place. And it's an inspiring place. I can go like once a week and I'll see different things that I've never noticed before. It certainly helps in terms of my own mindfulness and the art of noticing. So here's some images from a previous visit, taking the tags there. And I assure you that no sculptures were harmed in the making of those photographs there. But we're talking about creativity and activity combined, and a little bit of playfulness with words there with creativity. Prior to the lockdowns, we were working with the White Rose Maths Hub, and the children were doing mathematics trails in amongst the sculptures, and we decided to play the games in the most gorgeous of settings, so interpreting different things with the mathematics and the size and the shape and the patterns of the sculptures. So this brings us finally, so thank you for your patience, to some playful poetry. So we've got this gorgeous statue, and it's called The Man of the Moors by a sculptor called Sean Henry. And some people liken the image there to either Jeremy Corbyn or Jonathan Price. So what we did was, in the first instance, we took the photographs and shared them on social media. So first of all, we put them onto Twitter, and obviously it was responses from teachers. So the words there are kind of like pretty cool, formidable, yeah, pensive. And I love the words suggested by Philip Webb, who's an English advisor in North Yorkshire. And he came up with the word slowand. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, really. I had no idea what it meant. And Philip said that it was a terminology from the Wakefield-Barnsley border, and it means to be fed up or sad. For example, he was slowand about the score on Sunday. So some people gave us words and some people gave us more than one word, and they were beginning to reflect in terms of their own experiences at the sculpture park. So whether or not it was an adult who was a child making his own sculpture out of a bar of soap, even somebody who was studying there at the college when it was a teacher training college. And there's some illustrious people who used to study there, whether or not it was Ken Robinson or Howell Roberts. Howell Roberts, yeah, there's another one. Or Roy Long and various other people. And I love the fact that somebody suggested stealing yourself, steal spelt that way, but steal spelt the other way as well. So then we put it on Facebook and we got even more words. We got even more words generated by the teachers and friends out there. And we took those words and then asked them for more words and thoughts. And this is where some teachers got a little bit creative in terms of a typical primary school teacher here. I thought big, friendly, giant. Or hope kept on appearing. So there's always hope. What's beyond the horizon? What's next? Where to now? Every line tells a story. Or in the eternal battle of hope over experience, hope takes another beating. We've got some quite poetic friends and teachers out there on Facebook. So how do we link this? Well, different ways. Before we link it to the children, though, I'm just going to let you look at that. And I think that's kind of like gorgeous in terms of somebody really looking at the image and thinking about their own perceptions of that character, that sculpture, and what it represents.
Yeah.
So put those words to the children. So we trialed some.
I don't.
Oh, you don't want it?
No.
James.
I'm hoping somebody can mute themselves there.
Rice.
So I'm not sure who's in the room, but hopefully they'll mute themselves. So we took the words there to some children at an Easter camp with Leeds United Foundation, and the children were year 5. So the children looked at the words and then they worked out the words that they were a little bit unsure about and coloured them in amber and then researched them to find out what they actually meant. They then looked at the words and thought about their own words that they could generate, having looked. And it was kind of like interesting looking at the sadness, the loneliness. Mardy was a great one. I was kind of like, not perturbed necessarily, but I was interested by the word trauma in terms of why would a year 5 child think that this character had been through a traumatic experience. Given time, we should maybe explore that further. So the children were able to look at the photographs, the images, and create their own words. And then they actually collected the letters to make the words. And as I say, the consonants on one color, the vowels are on the other color, and the digraphs, trigraphs are on the third color. So the children collect the tags in different way, either running relays or grabbing the tags of each other. And then they actually set about creating the words. So they had the images on the iPad, they had the words on the clipboard. So we've got the word melancholy using the vowels and the consonants there, which I thought was kind of cute. And then they looked in terms of the words, whether or not wisdom or time or still or lost, and looked at those words in terms of how many syllables they had. Obviously, eternity jumps out there in terms of 3 syllables. We've got the word determined, which is kind of cute. And the one that's kind of hidden away on the railings there is destination. So another 3-syllable word there. So what did we do with them then? We gave the children the choice of writing either a haiku or an acrostic or a diamante poem on the back of their knowledge of those forms of poetry. And it was fascinating in terms of what did the children come up with? Well, they used the tags. So we've got here one, kind. So keeping his bag clutched, inside his case are his papers. Nobody knows his secrets. Distant thoughts. So that's from Constantinus, age 11. And then we really went to town here in terms of like trying to get all of the tags to try to create a haiku with 5 syllables on the first line and 7 syllables on the second line and back to 5 syllables on the third line. And I think the children did pretty well at this in terms of, you know, they explored the words, they had the laughs, they had the smiles, they had the discussions in terms of which words were powerful, which words were more powerful than others. And as I say, it's, yes, we want the children to be more physically active, but the byproduct of being physically active means that the children, I think they're more creative in the way that they work, whether or not it's with words or numbers in the mathematics program. By taking the learning beyond the classroom walls, something magical happens. Yes, there's neuroscience involved, but ultimately it's about, you know, looking at the teamwork, looking at the cooperation, looking at those soft skills that quite often get pushed to one side in terms of the drive towards improved academic performance. So all I would say is, if you want to reach out, you can do. Just thinking before we reach out and share that, where do we go next with it? Obviously, the one image of the man on the moors that we shared, we're going to try and look at other sculptures within the park and try to generate something similar, but then take it the next step forward with linking it to performance poetry, or better still, looking at performance poetry and linking it to dance and movement, whereby the children can choreograph their own moves, either in the classroom, in the hall, on the playground, or better still, you know, take the children to the sculpture park themselves. So as I say, if you want to learn more about moving and learning together, reach out on the different social media channels. Twitter's the obvious one. We've also got a presence on Facebook, etc. But if you want to ping an email to us or look at the website, I should point out that Tagtivate is a very small organization, and we fit underneath the Move and Learn umbrella. So Move and Learn is a community interest company, and we are looking to work with more schools in terms of, as I say, looking towards helping them shift their culture and ethos to embrace physical activity, using different approaches, different resources in different environments.